afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody this afternoon? I gotta say, you guys are dedicated. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and you are in here. So thank you for taking your citizenship responsibilities so very seriously. You know, I enjoyed very much going on Rich's radio show, and I have gained something of a reputation for being willing to talk to anybody and answer any question, and I'll look forward to your questions as well. But I want to start with sort of an interesting question I was asked actually before I was a declared candidate. I was here in New Hampshire for the First in the Nation Summit, and I was appearing on a national television program one Saturday morning, and I was asked whether a woman's hormones prevent her from serving in the Oval Office. So, ladies, all the ladies in the room, I'd like to ask you a question. Can you think of a single instance in which a man's judgment might have been clouded by his hormones? Can you think of any? Maybe even in the Oval Office? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons you're here is because you know that Hillary Clinton cannot be president of these United States. But not because she's a woman. Hillary Clinton must not be president of these United States because she is not trustworthy, because she lacks a track record of leadership, because her policies are bad for this nation. But you also know, if you have observed this election season so far, you also know that there are a whole set of really difficult questions that no one is asking Hillary Clinton. No one is asking her why she wiped her server in the basement clean. No one is asking her why she thought she could deter Vladimir Putin with a gimmicky red reset button. No one is asking her why she called the butcher of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, a positive reformer. No one is asking her why she lied about Benghazi and why she stood by as Secretary of State while Libya became a failed state and a haven for terrorists. And no one is asking her why she declared victory in 2011 in Iraq, thus permitting the rise of ISIS. No one's asking her those questions, and I bring it up because we are going to need a nominee on the general election debate stage who will ask her every single one of those questions, and I will. I can take a punch. I've taken a few in my life, but I can throw a punch as well, and 2016 is going to be a fight, and it's a fight we're going to have to win. You know, ladies and gentlemen, 80% of the American people, and my guess is you are among that 80%. 80% of the American people now think we have a professional political class that is more concerned with the protection of its own power, position, and privilege than it is doing the people's work. I agree with them. It's why I'm running for president. I personally am sick and tired of politicians in Washington, D.C. who play a good game, talk a good game, but somehow nothing really changes. How long have we been talking about immigration, ladies and gentlemen? How long? 20 years? 25 years? How long has our border been insecure under both Republicans and Democrats alike? 25 years? How long has our legal immigration system been broken? 25 years? How long have we not had an employer verification system that works? 25 years? How long has our Veterans Administration been a stain on our nation's honor? How long have we not served our veterans well? Not a couple months, not a couple years, a couple decades. And yet, when a scandal hits, what do politicians do? They take to the floor, they give a big speech, they say how upset they are, and yet nothing happens. We need a leader who understands that talk is cheap, that actions speak louder than words, that in the end, it is all about translating big ideas and the right policies into results for the people of this nation. And that means the ability and the courage and the track record to challenge the status quo in Washington, D.C. You know what? I am going to take that wireless mic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're busy doing your other things, but because this is an important election, an important set of issues, I'm going to come out and walk around you so maybe we have an opportunity to have a conversation here, because I think these are important times, pivotal times, actually. And I think we're going to have to win this fight in 2016. We have to win the election, and then we need somebody who can do the job. And I think doing the job now requires somebody who understands how the economy actually works, somebody who understands how the world works. Whether you are aware of it or not, I know more world leaders on the stage today than anyone else running. With the possible exception of Hillary Clinton, only I didn't do photo ops with these people. I had a private meeting with Vladimir Putin this close. I have sat in Bibi Netanyahu's office. I have sat in the Chinese leadership's office, Saudi leadership, all over the world, in every continent, in almost every country. I have met with world leaders, and that matters. Because the world's a dangerous and tragic place when we are not leading. It doesn't mean rushing off to war, but it also does not mean burying our head in the sand and not allowing our allies to fight the fights that they know they must fight. Let me just give you a very simple example of this. ISIS, we can't allow that evil to continue to grow, but we have a set of Arab allies that have asked us for very specific things to help them fight this fight. Jordan has asked us to provide bombs and materiel. We are not. Egypt has asked us to share intelligence. We are not. The Kurds have asked us to arm them. We are not. The Bahrainis, the Kuwaitis, the Saudis, they're all fighting ISIS right now, and yet we are not helping them. So I would hold a Camp David summit immediately, not to talk a bunch of Arab allies into a bad deal with Iran, but instead to help those Arab allies fight the fight by giving them the support that they need. We cannot retreat from the world. President Obama is always putting a false choice in front of this nation. The false choice always is, unless you agree with me, the only option is to rush off to war. That is untrue. But it is equally untrue that we can just let happen what is going on in the world. So we need somebody who understands the world. We need somebody who understands our military capabilities. I chaired the advisory board for the Central Intelligence Agency for several years, have advised 2 secretaries of defense, a secretary of Homeland Security, and by the way, I understand technology, and that matters. How many of you are aware of the data breach at the Office of Personnel Management? Okay, 22 million people have had their most private and personal information stolen by the Chinese. And I can tell you that we have known for at least 12 years that the Chinese were intent on hacking into every federal system and database we have. I also know that there have been basic things that the government has been told to do to secure those systems, like 2-factor authentication, which has been in place in private industry for years, and government has not done so. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, what we have now is not just a government that is too big, too powerful, too costly, and too complex. Not just a government that is now crushing the potential of this nation and every citizen in it. We now have a government that is inept. Unbelievable ineptitude. The ineptitude that means that we are not serving our veterans. The ineptitude that means we have not secured our border in 25 years, no matter how many speeches politicians give on it, Republicans and Democrats alike, the border is not secure. The ineptitude in the Office of Personnel Management and elsewhere that says, never mind all the recommendations on how to secure citizens' most private information, we're just not going to execute them. The ineptitude that says TSA is going to fail 96% of the time. We have an inept government, in addition to a large, costly, corrupt, powerful government. And crony capitalism is alive and well. Big business, big government get together. Why am I harping on this? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of politicians who know how to give a good speech, but they have no idea how to transform a bureaucracy from a big, bloated, inept organization to something that will actually deliver results. I do. And there are a couple key things that have to happen. We actually have to know where our money is being spent. So let us go to zero-based budgeting so that instead of just talking about the rate of increase over last year's budget, that what we're actually talking about is the justification of every single dollar spent by every single agency on every single program. Let's actually go to a meritocracy. Remember when the VA scandal in Arizona hit? Remember what the politicians did because there was a lot of pressure, Democrats and Republicans alike? They rushed to Capitol Hill and they passed a bill. And the bill said we could fire the top 400 senior executives of the VA if they didn't do their job. Good idea. Maybe we should do that all throughout government. And the shame of it is that the VA has fired one person. Politicians talk. By the way, what's happened since that bill passed and that one person in the VA has been fired? What's happened? Nothing. Nothing. So we need to be able to fire people all throughout the government if they're not doing their jobs. And then we need to ask citizens to help us reimagine government so it serves those who pay for it. And you know what I would do? I would take 10 veterans. I bet you I could find 10 right in this room. I would take 10 veterans, there you are. 10 veterans, put them in a room and say, tell me how you want to be served. And they would come up with a better blueprint for what we need to do to help veterans than all the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. put together. Securing the border, folks, this isn't rocket science. It takes money, it takes manpower, mostly it takes technology, but clearly what it really takes is political willpower and a leader who understands that giving a speech and moving on is not the same as delivering results for the American people. We need results now. You know, in that introduction that Rich gave me, which was very gracious, you know, he talked about the fact that I was the chief executive of Hewlett-Packard. Yes, I was. But I started out typing and filing and answering the phones in a little 9-person real estate firm. My husband Frank started out driving a tow truck for a family-owned auto body shop. I am keenly aware that it is only in this country that a young woman can start out typing and filing for a 9-person firm, go on after a couple decades, become the chief executive officer of the largest technology company in the world, and run for the presidency of the United States. That is only possible in this great nation. And it's possible here because our founders knew something my mother taught me when I was a very little girl. My mother said to me one morning, what you are is God's gift to you. What you make of yourself is your gift to God. And I have learned all throughout my life that everyone is gifted by God. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter your circumstances. Everyone is gifted by God. Everyone has potential. Every life is filled with potential. And yet, too few people get to fulfill their potential. Our founders knew that too. And so they founded a nation on a radical idea. It's visionary still. The radical idea was this: in this nation, you have the right to fulfill your potential. Not the opportunity, the right to fulfill your potential. And they said, and this was the radical part, the right to find and use your God-given gifts, the right to fulfill your potential. That's what they meant when they said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That right comes from God and should not be taken away by man or government. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to a place now in this nation's history, a pivotal point at this 2016, where the truth is this: the potential of this nation and the potential of way too many Americans is being crushed by the weight, the power, the cost, the complexity, the ineptitude, and the corruption of the federal government and the political class in Washington, D.C. And it is time for leadership that recognizes what to do with that, and citizenship that will help leaders change the order of things for the better in Washington, D.C. I learned long ago that leadership is not about power. It's not about position. It's not about title. It's not about having a big office or a big parking space, or, as Hillary Clinton now apparently has, a big jet. And leadership is not about just giving a big speech, although communication is important. The highest calling of leadership is to challenge the status quo, especially in Washington, D.C. We have a lot of politicians who come up with a lot of great ideas at election time, and yet they are part of the status quo. So, I think we need not a professional politician. By the way, that isn't how our nation was founded. Ours was founded on the idea of a citizen government by, for, and of the people. I don't think we need another professional politician of the political class who will manage the status quo. I think we need a leader who will challenge the status quo with the help of the citizens of this great nation. And so, yes, we need someone who can win this job, because Hillary Clinton cannot be president of the United States, and neither can any of the other Democrats running. But we also need somebody who can do this job. And so I'll end where I started. What does it take to do this job now? To lead this nation, to unlock the potential of this nation, to cut government down to size, and to cause government to do the things it is supposed to do well, and to stop doing the things it has no business doing, to actually hold government accountable to the citizens and the taxpayers who fund it day in and day out. What does that actually take? It takes somebody who understands how the economy works. It takes somebody who understands how the world works and who's in it. It takes someone who understands bureaucracies and how to move them, technology and how to use it, because our enemies are using it against us. And finally, somebody who understands leadership. I will close with one last thought, because I think about this a lot, and I think you think about it a lot. What is it this nation should be? What is it this nation must be in the 21st century? So I picture in my mind Lady Liberty and Lady Justice. Think for a moment about the image of Lady Liberty. She is tall and strong. She is clear-eyed and resolute. She doesn't shield her eyes from the realities of the world, and she faces out into the world. She holds her torch up high because she knows she's a beacon of hope in a very troubled world. And Lady Justice, she holds a sword. A lot of people forget that Lady Justice holds a sword, but she holds a sword because she's a fighter. She's a warrior for the values and the principles that have made this nation great. She holds a scale. And I think with that scale, she is saying all of us are equal in the eyes of God, and so all of us must be equal in the eyes of the government and law, power, full and powerless alike. And we have come to a place in this nation where if you are wealthy, well-connected, and big, you do all right. But if you are small, a family-owned business, or powerless, you are getting crushed. And finally, she wears a blindfold. And with that blindfold, I think she is reminding us that in this nation, it must be true. That it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter what you look like, and it doesn't matter how you start, and it doesn't matter what your circumstances. Here, what matters is you have potential, you have God-given gifts, and here, every American's life must be filled with the possibilities that come from those God-given gifts, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you care deeply about this country. And I would encourage you to think deeply about the future of this nation. Politics is not a game anymore. I know you've never thought it was, but somehow politics has kind of become formulaic in our nation. We've got teams, one against the other. We truly need to win the White House, and then we need a leader with the help of the citizens of this great nation who can change the course of government in Washington, D.C., and unlock the potential of this nation. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for having me. Thanks for being here.